I used to think that family would always come through in the end. That no matter how tense things got, blood would still mean something. But the older I got, the more I realized, some blood ties only exist to drain you. My name is Evan. I'm 36, a financial strategist, a husband to the most grounded woman I know, and a father to two amazing kids, with a third on the way. We're not flashy. We don't take extravagant vacations or wear designer anything, but we're happy, solid, ourselves. And yet, in my parents' eyes, I've always been the one who strayed, the one who didn't follow my father-in-law, the one who married Lee instead of someone more polished, the one who didn't kiss the ring. So when my youngest brother, Jordan, called and said, "Come home for Thanksgiving. It'll be different this time," well, I wanted to believe him. God, I really did. It started with a call on a gray Tuesday morning. I was reviewing client reports in my office when my phone buzzed. Jordan, my youngest brother. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up. "Hey, Evan, just checking in. You guys good?" I knew where this was going. Jordan wasn't the type to call out of the blue. Not unless he had something he wanted to ease into. And sure enough, after a few pleasantries and a vague question about baby names, he said it, "Thanksgiving's next week. Mom's cooking. You should come." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. "Jordan," I said carefully, "you remember what happened last year, right? And the year before that?" He sighed. "Yeah, I do. But this year feels different. I've been over there a few times, and I don't know. They've mellowed." Mom even asked about the kids. I almost laughed. Asked about the kids, my kids, Milo and Sienna, who hadn't received so much as a birthday card from their grandparents in 2 years. "Jordan," I said, "they don't even like Leah. They pretend she's not in the room half the time. And last time I showed up to Christmas dinner, there were 11 seats set, and none of them were mine." He was quiet. "Look, I get it," he finally said. "But maybe, just maybe, they're trying this time. You've always been the one who kept your distance. Maybe they think you don't want to be included." I clenched my jaw. I kept my distance because every time I came close, I got burned. Still, when I hung up, I didn't delete the invite from my calendar. Instead, I went home and told Leah. She didn't say no. She just gave me that long, thoughtful look, the one she saves for moments when she doesn't want to influence my decision, but really wants to influence my decision. "It's up to you," she said, hand resting on her belly. "But I'm not going. I'm 8 months pregnant and have zero patience for passive-aggressive table talk." Fair. We agreed I'd go alone, with the kids. I figured, worst case, we leave early. Best case, maybe Jordan was right. Maybe my parents had decided to finally act like, well, parents. So that Thursday, I dressed Milo in a collared shirt and Sienna in her favorite purple dress, covered in little sunflower prints. La kissed them goodbye at the door and hugged me a little longer than usual. "Text me if they say anything out of line," she whispered. "I'll come swinging with this belly and a folding chair." I laughed. But part of me knew she meant it. We stopped by a bakery on the way and picked up a pecan pie. I even brought a bottle of aged bourbon for my dad, something I knew he liked. I tried. God, I tried. But the moment we pulled up to my parents' house, something didn't feel right. There were cars lining the driveway, water pouring from the windows. But as soon as I rang the doorbell and stepped inside with my kids in tow, the warmth evaporated. The way my mother looked up and then immediately turned back to carving the turkey. The way my father didn't even bother to greet us. The way my sister Avery glanced at us like we were unexpected guests showing up without RSVPing. No hugs, no smiles, no plates, just cold air. And I knew I had made a mistake, a big one. The silence hit like a slap. My kids stood on either side of me, Milo gripping the pie box nervously, Sienna peeking out from behind my coat, her small fingers tangled in the fabric. Everyone was already seated at the dining table, mid-toast. My father, Dean, stood at the head with a wine glass in hand. Avery, my younger sister, sat to his right, the seat of honor. Her husband, Joel, was beside her, half smirking like this was all some kind of performance and he'd read the script. My mother, Elaine, didn't even look up. She was too busy adjusting the sprigs of rosemary on the turkey platter, like she was auditioning for a food magazine shoot. I cleared my throat. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said, my voice more hopeful than I meant it to be. My father turned toward me, his smile freezing in place like a glitch in the system. "Why are you here?" he asked. I blinked. "Excuse me. You weren't invited," he repeated, cool and measured. "At least not officially." I could feel Milo shift beside me. Sienna pressed into my side, her tiny voice barely a whisper. "Daddy, are we not supposed to be here?" My stomach twisted. "Jordan invited us," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. "Jordan doesn't make decisions for this household," my mother said, still not looking at me. "And we weren't expecting additions. Not family, not grandchildren, additions." I looked toward the table, 12 seats, 12 place cards, and linen napkins folded just so. No high chairs, no spare plates, not even a folding table in the corner. Just 12 seats for the people who mattered. Avery met my eyes and offered a condescending smile. You should have told Mom you were coming. It's not like there's endless room. Joel chuckled beside her. We're already tight as it is. It's a 6-bedroom house, I said flatly. Not with all the guests. My mother snapped. I looked at her, looked around at the dining room, at the crystal glasses, the gold-trimmed plates, and the floral centerpiece. Someone clearly spent too much money. This was the house they refused to leave, even after my dad's retirement and their failed real estate venture wiped out half their savings. The house they insisted on keeping up like nothing had changed. Because admitting they couldn't afford it would mean admitting they weren't who they used to be. And for 2 years, I'd quietly paid $950 a month to help cover the mortgage. Without acknowledgement, without thanks. So that's it, I asked. We're not welcome. My father gave me a look that was somehow both bored and irritated. It's not about being welcome. It's about respecting the boundaries of the household. That word, boundaries, nearly broke me. You mean like when I helped you cover property taxes so the city wouldn't seize your precious household? Or when I footed the bill for that roof leak you claimed insurance would cover? The room froze. Avery's smile vanished. What are you talking about? She asked, glancing at our parents. What roof? My dad's face tightened. My mom finally looked at me, really looked, her expression slipping. A van, she said in warning. Not now. Why not now? I snapped. Because we have guests. Or because you're scared they'll find out your son, the one you pretend doesn't exist, is the reason you're not living in a 1-bedroom rental downtown. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, the old pressure I used to bottle up in the gym or bury under late-night spreadsheets. I looked at my kids, Milo's jaw tight, Sienna silent, and something inside me hardened. You want to pretend we're not family? Fine. But then don't expect family support. I pulled out my phone. You've got one more mortgage payment coming. After that, you're on your own. The silence was instant and total. Even Joel stopped chewing. What payment? Avery asked, her voice suddenly higher. What is he talking about? I didn't answer her. I turned to my kids instead. Let's go, guys. A van. Don't be ridiculous. My dad said, his voice growing sharp. Sit down. You're making a scene. No, Dad, I said. You made this scene the second you decided appearances mattered more than people. Milo took my hand. Sienna looked up at me. Do we still get pie? She asked softly. Of course we do, I smiled. And not the kind that comes with cold shoulders. We turned and walked toward the door. And as I opened it, I said, without turning around, Happy Thanksgiving. And meant every single word. We left without another word. The moment the front door clicked shut behind us, I felt something crack open inside me. Not anger, not grief, clarity. In the car, Milo buckled himself in silently. Sienna was already hugging her stuffed rabbit, one she'd snuck into her coat pocket, just in case she got bored. Are we going to Grandma's later? She asked. I glanced at her in the rearview mirror and gave a gentle smile. No, sweetheart. We're going somewhere better. We stopped at a local diner. Nothing fancy, red booths, paper napkins, warm cinnamon rolls. But when the waitress handed the kids their apple ciders in plastic cups and brought out a slice of pumpkin pie, the tension melted from their shoulders. Sienna dipped her fork into the whipped cream and giggled. Milo asked if he could get extra syrup on his waffles. And I just sat back and breathed. No performance. No guilt, no calculation. Just peace. That night, after we got home, I told Lee everything. She was sitting on the couch in sweats, one hand resting on her belly, the other holding a half-eaten clementine. I didn't soften it. I didn't filter. When I finished, she leaned back and exhaled. So that's it. That's it. I nodded. I told them Avery could figure it out. She chuckled. Avery. She can't even figure out how to set up her own Wi-Fi. Not my problem, I said simply. I opened my banking app and showed her the canceled auto transfer. We just freed up the $9.50 a month. She smiled wider than I'd seen in weeks. Baby fund. Already moved it. The next morning, my phone started buzzing. Voicemails from my mother, one after another. The first angry. You humiliated us in front of everyone. The second manipulative. After all we've done for you. The third panicked. The mortgage is due next week. Avery can't cover that. I didn't reply. I didn't even listen past the first 10 seconds. I just deleted it. Avery texted later that afternoon. Seriously, you're just gonna dump this on me like that? I blocked her. 3 days passed. Peaceful. Until Jordan showed up on my porch. It was a rainy Tuesday. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Shirt wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. His normally tidy hair a chaotic mess. Can I come in? He asked, already sounding defeated. I let him. He sat at our kitchen table and rubbed his face before speaking. So they're melting down. I figured, I said, pouring coffee for both of us. Avery maxed out 2 credit cards trying to buy time. Mom's been crying nonstop. Dad's blood pressure's through the roof. They should probably call a financial advisor, I said, deadpan. Jordan gave a short, humorless laugh. They had one. He quit. We sat in silence for a few moments. They're hoping you'll change your mind, he finally said. They don't say it out loud, but it's obvious. Not happening. I'm not here to convince you, Jordan said quickly. I just thought you should know, they're blaming each other. It's getting ugly. I raised an eyebrow. So the Golden Girl's halo is slipping? More like crashing? He nodded. Turns out, Dad didn't tell her you were covering the mortgage. She thought everything was fine. Planned a luxury spa weekend the day after Thanksgiving. I couldn't help but laugh. Well, I said, taking a sip of coffee, guess the truth finally got its seat at the table. Jordan looked at me seriously. You really don't feel bad? I thought about it. I don't feel good about it, I admitted. But I don't feel guilty either. That's new. They're gonna lose the house, Evan. Then let them, I said flatly. It's still your childhood home. No. I corrected him. It's a monument to their pride, and my silence. I don't owe that house anything. That night, as I tucked the kids into bed, Milo looked up at me. Dad or Grandma and Grandpa mad at us? I knelt beside him. No, bud, they're just mad at me. Because you stopped paying for their house. Smart kid. Because I finally said no, I nodded. And sometimes, when people are used to you saying yes, no feels like betrayal. He was quiet for a moment, then said, I think it's okay to say no. Especially if they were mean. I smiled. Me too, buddy. It was 1:14 a.m. when my phone rang. The sound tore through the dark like a fire alarm. Lee stirred beside me, one hand on her belly. Who is it? She mumbled. I squinted at the screen. Jordan. I answered immediately. What's wrong? It's Dad, he said breathless. He's having chest pains. Mom's panicking. I don't know what to do. I was already out of bed, grabbing jeans and a sweatshirt. Did you call 911? She wanted to call you first. Damn it, Jordan. Tell her to call them now. I'm on my way. I hadn't set foot in that house since Thanksgiving. But when I walked through the door and saw my dad collapsed in his recliner, pale and barely breathing, everything else disappeared. The resentment, the insults, the years of silent sacrifices. All I saw was my father, the man who taught me how to tie a tie, whose booming courtroom voice once made me proud, even if he rarely turned that pride toward me. For a moment, I froze. Then instinct took over. Has he taken anything? Aspirin, nitroglycerin. My mom just shook her head, mascara streaked and breath ragged. I didn't know what to do. Avery's not answering. So you called me, I said, pulling out my phone. Not an ambulance. Me. But I was already dialing. As I gave the dispatcher the address, I knelt beside him, watching the shallow rise of his chest. Stay with me, I whispered. Don't you dare give out now. The paramedics arrived minutes later. Calm, professional, they checked his vitals, hooked him up, and exchanged concerned looks. Not a heart attack, but he's close. Blood pressure sky high, 195/112. Could stroke out if we don't act fast. They loaded him onto the stretcher. My mom turned to me, wide-eyed. I can't drive like this. Please, come with us. I hesitated, not because I didn't care, but because I knew the moment I said yes, they'd think everything had gone back to normal. That I was the fixer again. The fallback. The safety net. Still, I nodded. I'll ride along. Because whatever came next, I needed to make sure it wasn't guilt I carried with me, but clarity. At the hospital, I sat in the hallway for nearly an hour while they stabilized him. I didn't text anyone, didn't call Leah. I just sat, thought. Jordan finally arrived. He dropped into the seat next to me, silent. He's stable, I said. Good. Jordan exhaled. He looked at me. Thanks for stepping in. I didn't do it for them, I said. He nodded. I know. There was a long pause. So what happens now? I looked at him, tired but grounded. Now, he rests, he heals, and they start facing the consequences of a life built on appearances. And you? I go home. At 4:37 a.m., I returned to a quiet house. Lee was asleep on the couch, a half-empty glass of water beside her. I sat down gently, pulled a blanket over both of us, and rested a hand on her stomach. The baby kicked. I smiled. That night, I didn't dream of guilt or obligation. I just dreamed of holding my son for the first time, clean slate, full heart. And when I woke up a few hours later to make pancakes for Milo and Sienna, I knew. I had shown up. I had done enough. But I wasn't going back. 3 days passed in silence. No calls, no messages. Just a quiet, uncomfortable calm like the eye of a storm. Then, on Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was Jordan. She's here, he said without saying who. At the house. Yeah, Avery showed up. She wants to talk. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then, against my better judgment, I texted back, I'll come. Once. I pulled up to my parents' house just before sunset. Avery's car was parked crooked in the driveway, one tire on the lawn. The place looked worse than before. The grass hadn't been cut. Curtains were closed like the house itself didn't want to face daylight. Inside, the living room was a mess. My mother sat on the edge of the couch, wringing a tissue. My father, still recovering, looked older, smaller somehow. Avery stood in the middle of the room like a statue cracked down the middle. When she saw me, her composure faltered. Van. I didn't move. Jordan said you wanted to talk. She nodded quickly, her voice trembling. I messed up. I know. I got in over my head at work, and with him. My boss. I thought he cared about me. I thought. She broke off, voice catching. My mother stepped in. Avery's in serious trouble. The company launched an investigation. Police came to our door. She might be charged. Jordan added from the kitchen, his tone low. Fraud. Embezzlement. She was signing off on fake vendor invoices her boss created. I said nothing. They think she was involved, Jordan continued. Even if she wasn't. She was. I interrupted, calm and cold. Avery looked at me, startled. I didn't. Don't lie to me, I said. You knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. She sank to her knees, right there, on the worn carpet where we used to open Christmas presents. Please, Evan. I don't care what happens to me, but Mom and Dad, they're going to lose the house. The mortgage is months behind. I tried to fix it, but... Her voice cracked. I thought you were always going to be there. You always were. I folded my arms. That's the thing about always. People start treating it like forever. My mother finally spoke, her voice soft and pleading. We made mistakes. We took you for granted. But please, Evan, we need help. Help. I repeated. You mean money. Silence. You could have set a place for us at the table. You could have welcomed my kids instead of treating them like outsiders. You could have acknowledged. Once, what I'd done for this family. I looked around the room, at the walls I painted when I was 16. The coffee table I helped Dad repair after that storm in '09. The bookshelf I built in college is still holding dust, covered trophies that no one ever cared to dust. But you didn't. You decided who mattered, and who didn't. We were wrong. My father said, his voice weaker than I remembered. I see that now. You don't get to see it now and expect me to act like nothing happened. Avery looked up at me, tears streaked and broken. Please. I'll pay you back, I swear. I laughed, a low, bitter sound. You already spent what I gave. You used it to cover your credit card debt and pretend you had your life together. She looked stunned. How do you know that? I glanced at Jordan. He didn't deny it. Because this time, someone told the truth. I turned to my parents. You lied to me. You said the money was for the mortgage. But you gave it to her. My mother stammered. We thought she'd pay it back after her promotion. So you took what little I had left, while Leah was 8 months pregnant. Because you bet on the wrong child. No one spoke. I reached into my coat and pulled out a small envelope. Here's what I'm willing to give you now. Avery reached out instinctively. I pulled it back. It's not money. I handed it to Jordan instead. Inside is the contact of a bankruptcy lawyer. A good one. I referred dozens of clients to him. He'll help you restructure your mortgage or sell the house before foreclosure hits your credit too hard. My mother gasped. Sell. This is our home. No, I said quietly. This was a stage. And the show's over. I started for the door. Van, wait, Avery cried. What am I supposed to do? I turned back. Figure it out. Like I had to. You'd really let me go to jail. You laughed in my face, Avery, in front of my children. Remember? She didn't answer. Actions have consequences. Welcome to adulthood. I looked at my parents one last time. You didn't lose me because you made mistakes. You lost me because you never owned them, until you were desperate. And with that, I walked out. This time, no one followed. Back home, Leah was folding baby clothes. I kissed the top of her head and said, simply, we're done. She didn't ask what I meant. She just nodded. Because she knew, the break was final. And for once, it didn't feel cruel, it felt clean. 2 weeks after I walked out of that house, Lee went into labor. It was early morning, barely light outside. I drove her to the hospital with one hand on the wheel and the other holding hers the entire time. 8 hours later, our son was born. We named him Nico Dean. Ian? Leah asked, a little surprised when I filled out the form. I nodded. For closure. Not forgiveness. Just closure. She didn't press. She understood me better than anyone ever had to explain. I didn't tell my parents. Not when Leah went into labor. Not when Nico let out his first cry. Not when Milo and Sienna met their baby brother, eyes wide with wonder and cheeks sticky with apple juice. I didn't tell them. Because it wasn't their moment. It was ours. A few days later, My phone buzzed with an unknown number, a voicemail. My mother's voice. "We heard about the baby. Please, Evan, let us see him. We're still your family." I deleted it. Then I blocked the number. For Emma's birthday, a box arrived on our doorstep. No note, just gifts, expensive ones. Dolls, a smartwatch, a gift card to some overpriced boutique. I took the whole box and drove it straight to the donation center. She didn't ask who it was from. Neither did Leah. There were no more conversations about giving them another chance. That door was closed, not slammed, just locked. Quietly. Permanently. Jordan moved into our guest room a month after the hospital incident. He told them he was done playing neutral, that he wasn't going to enable the cycle anymore. They kicked him out the next day. He showed up at my door with a duffel bag and a defeated look. "Is this okay?" he asked. "I don't want to mess things up here." I clapped him on the back. "You're already doing better just by asking." Since then, he's been helping Lee with school runs, coaching Milo's baseball team when I'm working late, and slowly, steadily putting together the pieces of his own life. For the first time in a long time, we feel like brothers, not by blood, but by choice. It's been 4 months. My finances are better than they've ever been. That's $950 a month. Now it goes into our kids' college funds. We've already added over $700,000 since Thanksgiving. I sleep better. I lift heavier at the gym. I walk taller, not because I've become someone new, but because I've stopped carrying people who were never willing to walk beside me. Sometimes I still think about what my mother said. "We're still your family." But I've come to understand something: family isn't who shares your name. It's who shows up when no one's looking. It's who sets a table for you, not just because you're useful, but because you're loved. And the ones who made me feel like an outsider in my own story, they lost the right to narrate it a long time ago. So no, I don't miss them. I miss the idea of them. The fantasy of being wanted, welcomed, and chosen. But the truth, that fantasy was holding me back. And the moment I let go, I made room for something real.